My name is Aino Corey, and I'm an Agile coach. Have you ever wondered what Agile coaches do all day? Are they just sitting around drinking coffee and inviting people to numerous meetings? Today I want to take you to some of the things I do in a typical day in my life as an Agile coach and shed some light on how we spend our time. Welcome to this channel. This is Dave Farley's Continuous Delivery channel. If you've not been here before, please hit subscribe, and if you enjoy the content today, hit like as well. Before we begin, a thank you to our channel sponsors Equal Experts, Tricentis and Transfig, all of whom help us grow the channel and provide products that align very well with what we discuss on this channel. All my days are different, but a typical day could start like this. I go to the office in the morning and I find a desk to work from. I start my computer and I read my email. Because of my client, I have to use a PC, which is why starting my computer is suddenly an activity. With my personal Mac, I just use my fingerprint and everything is exactly where I left it, but I digress. And of course I lied a bit. I already read my emails on the toilet at home, but who wants to admit that in public? Even more digressing. I have 2 points for you today. What is the point of the daily Scrum meeting, formerly known as the stand-up meeting, and how to handle the people who do not trust Agile? And then there's a third surprise at the end that will enable you to understand why rockstar programmers often hate Agile ways of working. The next thing I do after reading my email is to observe a daily Scrum meeting in a team. The Scrum Master of the team has asked me to help them improve their daily meeting. And after having an initial conversation with them, I've asked for permission to observe it and give them feedback. What I see in the daily Scrum meeting is that people are spending a lot of time discussing details. The Scrum Master is trying to move along in the daily so that everybody in the team gets a chance to say where they are, whether they have any obstacles, anything that prevents them from getting their work done, whether they're waiting for anybody inside the team or outside the team, or whether they need help to review or improve things. What happens typically is that the meeting goes over time. Some people have to leave, even though the meeting is not done, because they already have a different meeting planned, and it's altogether quite frustrating for everybody who's there, also for the Scrum Master. After the daily, I've set up a meeting with the Scrum Master to give them feedback on my observations. And what I say as feedback is that first of all, I think that they're doing a good job in setting a good atmosphere in the daily meeting so that people actually want to say something. And that's definitely a good thing to be able to do as a meeting facilitator. This particular Scrum Master does this by entering the meeting, this is a remote meeting, 5 minutes early every day and sharing a joke or a weird fact about animals. For the people who show up early, there's a bit of fun, but they also sometimes use this as a way to ask questions to the Scrum Master. Then I point out that there are some things that can be done to prepare for this meeting better, so that people will not spend time discussing nitty-gritty technical details, but will use this time together to plan how to get help from each other. Normally when people need help, they don't need help from everybody else in the team. They might need help from 1 or 2 others who are more experienced in the technology or the process. Now, I appreciate that some people might say that details are important in a meeting, and if we have a meeting where we remove the detailed discussions, we are wasting time. But this particular meeting is an exception. It is meant to be short, less than 15 minutes, in order for people to agree to do it every day. So I proposed to the Scrum Master that they could add an extra meeting after the daily Scrum meeting, a meeting called an ad hoc meeting. This is something that I've had good experience with, and I talked about this in my latest video. The ad hoc meeting is a little 15-minute meeting or session that you put in right after the daily Scrum meeting. And if some people start discussing some details in the daily Scrum, you can say to them, please keep this for the ad hoc meeting. So whenever somebody needs help or needs a longer answer to a question, the Scrum Master can write their names down, and then they're more likely to be able to end the daily meeting after 15 minutes or perhaps even shorter. After the daily meeting, the Scrum Master will then start the new meeting, which is called the ad hoc meeting, and then they can discuss the things that they didn't have time to discuss in the daily. Not everybody has to be in the ad hoc. It's only the people who need an extra discussion. And in the ad hoc, the Scrum Master might have to create 2 or 3 breakout rooms so that they can have 2 or 3 discussions going in parallel. And yes, this is an extra meeting, but it will save you time in the long run, believe me. When you ask to go to a meeting, always ask why. The reason for the daily Scrum meeting is that it gives the people in the team a chance to ask for help in a structured way. It also makes people reflect on the flow, the progress in the team's work. What often happens without a daily check-in is that the people have a task and they sit on it for weeks or even months, never reaching out for help for various reasons. And only right before the deadline they will admit that they cannot get it done in time due to unforeseen circumstances. You've probably never done that. Even if you think you have nothing to say in the daily, it's my experience that there's always something of importance almost every day. Maybe not for everyone in the team, but predicting exactly who needs this is impossible. So keep the daily check-ins, but keep them short. The next thing I often do is that I have discussions with somebody who's very much against all this agile business. When I enter an organization as an agile coach, what I'm there to do is actually to help implement a change. So if the organization is already completely agile, they probably already have their own internal agile coaches to keep things going. But when I'm called in as an external agile coach, it's normally in the beginning, before agility is implemented in the organization. I'm there to help with the change, and that means that my face becomes the face of the change, and that means that the people who, for several reasons, fear the change, don't like the change, sometimes react very negatively to me. And it's quite normal, it's quite human to react negatively to change, unless it's a change that you've decided yourself. It can feel a bit overwhelming. Sometimes people really want a lot of change too fast. Sometimes people don't want any change at all, and sometimes people don't even notice that there's a change going on. When dealing with the different people in the organization, I have to think about what kind of people in the organization that I am working with, and then figure out how I can help these different types of people. So if they want all the change at once, I have to try to help them get perspective, so that they don't expect things to change too fast. That's typically upper management, who wants the agile transformation to happen in 3 months, and they don't want to spend any money on it. They also often call it a transformation, which is a bit misleading because the work to improve it never ends. And then you have the people who are resisting the change. They want to stick to what they know. For those people, you have to take away their fear. It's normally fear of the change that makes them hate the change. It can be because they fear that they might lose power, they fear that they might lose the overview, maybe the fear that they don't know how to do this and they're afraid they won't do it very well. The brilliant book Fearless Change by Linda Rising and Marilyn Mans talks about this at length. So I have to make these talks with people. It's not enough to just present what agility is or give a course about agility to everybody. You have to figure out what people think about it, and some of these people who are very, very negative towards the agile changes. It can be different things that they are reacting against. When I meet somebody who's very negative, I sit down with them and I use one of the patterns from the brilliant book I mentioned before, Fearless Change. This particular pattern is called Champion Skeptic, and it describes how you can deal with negative people in order to stop them spreading the negativity. So you sit down with the person that's very negative and you say to them, look, you're obviously very capable and intelligent and able to see through bullshit. Because of this, it would be really great for me to have you on my side, because this agile change is not something I've decided. It's not something you've decided, but we're in this together and we have to make the most of it. I'm sure that with your experience and your intelligence, you can actually help me coaching the team in the right way. It's important to talk about something very concrete, perhaps what the next retrospective should be about, or the structure of the daily Scrum meeting. Give the person a role in the Agile work where they can make use of their natural skepticism. In this way you can turn them into a champion skeptic, and instead of complaining about the change, or you at the coffee machine, you get them to come directly to you, because they believe that you're working together and you will try to meet their needs. In my experience, the people who you turn into champion skeptics actually become your best proponents. I've had people who hated retrospectives, and once I used the champion skeptic pattern with them, they were able to help me improve the retrospectives for the team. After a while, I heard them talk about retrospectives to other people in a positive way, because they felt they were part of it, and they felt seen, and they felt useful, and they were useful. So a champion skeptic is often somebody that I need to talk to. I need to have a specific meeting with them to figure out how I can help this person become more happy in this implementation and this change. How can I get this person to help me instead of working against me? I also often find myself spending a lot of time explaining what Agile is and why it is a good way of developing software and most other things. I do not want people to just follow Scrum or SAFe and shut down their brains. I want them to continuously ask why we're doing what we're doing. For instance, why do we have all these meetings? And why do stories or tasks need to be so small? This is because what we are practicing is CC, continuous communication, and that is the point of it all. We want to make a plan and do our best to follow it, but we also want to keep in mind that the plan will not necessarily always be followed. As the wise Buddhists say, everything deteriorates. And because we know we will not follow the plan, we will make sure that we know as soon as possible when we do not, so that we can adjust the plan. Obviously, when you realize that you have to change plans almost every week, you learn not to spend too much time on the details of the plan. And I promised I would explain why some developers hate Agile ways of working. It is often the experts that cannot see the point of all this communication. Why can't we just leave them alone to do their work? Well, firstly, the novices need them. As we know from the research behind working from home, we already know that it is the novices that suffer the most because they have less easy access to the experts, and the experts love the peace and quiet. But if you choose to work in a place that hires new people, you have to suffer and train the novices from time to time, and you might as well optimize it. Instead of leaving them alone to fuck things up for months, you can have a very short chat every day to see if they're on the right path. The experts often don't see the point of spending time discussing how people feel about things. And it's often because they don't think that they need it. Because they work on their own, and they work very well on their own, thank you very much. They want to be undisturbed and crushing a problem all alone. They like to feel like a hero that can solve hard problems, and often do not see how this mindset impacts the long-term health of the project and sometimes gets the project cancelled. Thinking of themselves as a genius by solving something hard but interesting, and then realizing that the problem wasn't the highest priority for the group after 3 months of hermit programming because there's not enough communication about pain points with the customers or stakeholder. Did that ever happen to you? Thank you for watching. I'll be back next month with more about teams, meetings, decisions, learning or communication.